Good evening, all of you. I hope I'm clearly visible and audible. All right. Welcome to the session. Hi, Varun. Good noon. Okay. So Bengali. Okay, that's the name that you've kept for yourself. All right. Good noon. A very good afternoon. I hope all of you are doing well. Right. And today we are going to talk about RC passages. Very important for your CAT exam. Good afternoon, Amrit. Hello, Maitri. Good noon. Good noon. Hi Videep, good noon. So, a lot of you already know me. Those who are joining for the first time, I am Nikita, and in these sessions, we talk about uh, the IIM Bangalore PYQP series. So far, we have talked about how to look at your various question types. So, for instance, vocabulary and grammar, that is not asked in CAT anymore, but when it was asked, how did it look like? We've seen that, right? In the coming week, we'll talk about how do parajumbles look like in a CAT exam now and how to navigate them. Today we are going to talk about RC passages, right? So, in case you've seen the CAT 2007 paper, any idea how many RCs came, of what kind? Anyone? Good afternoon, Apurva. Hello, Namrata. Good afternoon. Right. So four RCs appeared in CAT 2007 as well. Okay, so four RCs and a lot of them carried 3 to 4 questions, right? So the length was 500 to 600 words per RC. This is what my cursory observation has told me. So today what we are going to do, we are going to pick up a difficult RC passage from CAT 2007, right? And a moderate level RC passage. So one is more philosophical in nature, and the other one that is more contemporary. It is more topical, so to say. So we are going to see how to tackle each RC type, okay, and in the process we are going to look at how to approach some question types, right? Okay. So before I begin, I want to ensure that a lot of you have already taken the All India mock, right? And in case you haven't, then you should know that the window remains open only till October 9. Okay. So very limited time remains. So please do take it, make your weekend count, and you get all of these things, mock attempts by experts, question-wise video solutions. What more can you ask for? Right? So do attempt it now. The link for attempting it is there in your chat box right now. Okay, so as I told you, we'll look at two previous year RC passages. We'll understand how to read an RC passage, particularly through the difficult one, the one that I'm calling relatively difficult, right? Okay, and the next thing that we're going to learn is how to tackle these three question types here. Main idea, of course, inference, okay, and further application questions. We'll see what I mean by further application questions. Okay, so this is on the agenda for today. Let me begin. So the first RC passage, as I told you, is a more philosophical one. So we'll read and comprehend it together as much as we can. Okay, and we'll see how to navigate an RC passage when, let's say, the topic is not familiar, when, let's say, the language is difficult for us, how to navigate such RCs. Okay, all right. So, so Varun, is are RCs the only concern in NMAT? As in, when you're getting when you're analyzing your mock, you must realize, that apart from RCs, where you're making mistakes. So see the proportion. Maybe RCs are not your weakness. The other areas are, right? All RCs in CAT. So, Trump, yes, you can target all RCs in CAT. See this. Let me just talk about this a bit. Just give me 1 minute. Yes. So 24 questions, 16 questions out of those from RC passages. This is your CAT pattern. You're aware of this. 4 passages of 4 questions each. Now, all of this has to be done in, I mean, these 8 VA questions and these 16 questions, all of this has to be done in a span of 40 minutes. So students often ask this question, can we target all the RC passages? Is it possible to target all the RC passages? There are two approaches. First is that yes, you can target all the RC passages in a span of 30 minutes. and leave the 10 minutes for your BA. That is very much possible. Okay. However, in that case, you should not, in fact, you should never have this goal that I have to attempt all the questions. You should never have this preconceived notion. If, let's say, the paper comes to be easy, then yes, of course, by all means, attempt all the questions. But otherwise, you have to simply focus on maximizing your score. So if I talk about last year's CAT, you had four RC passages. Two of them were actually easy. There you could target all the four questions per RC. But the other two, they were slightly tricky. So there you could target, let's say, three out of four. Okay, or let's say if one of them was particularly difficult for you, then two out of four there. So be smart about the questions that you attempt. And if you do this, then you can very well target all the four RC passages. However, I always tell you that this is not a one size fits all solution, right? You have to see where you stand in VARC. If, let's say, QA and DILR happen to be your strength and you are amazing in those two sections, then you might just have the aim of clearing the cutoffs here, or let's say scoring a 90 to 95 percentile here, something like that. If that is your goal, then yes, you can do this, that you ensure a very good accuracy in the three RCs, right? A good accuracy in the three RCs that you attend, and then you can consider skipping one RC that you find difficult. Okay, so see where you stand relative to the other sections also, and that can decide how many RCs you are going to target in the exam. Okay, but if you ask, can you target? Yes, you can very well target all the four RCs. You just have to be smart about the questions. Okay, hope this helps. Now, moving to our RC passage for the day. Let me just check the chat box. Why not easy RCs, Abhishek? What are we? I mean, why have I not brought an easy RC for you? That's what you were saying. Didn't get your question. Right. So I am showing you the RCs, the kind of RCs that are going to come in the exam. That should be the goal, right? There's no point in my doing easy RCs with you if the ones that come in the exam are not. Okay. So let us have a look without further ado. Passage 1. And this, okay, before I tell you what it talks about, let's read and you form your own opinion. Then we have a main idea question anyway. So we will deal with the main idea. We will discuss the main idea. Okay. So let's read the first sentence, right? This is your exam situation. You read the first sentence and it says, to discover the relation between rules, paradigms, and normal signs, consider first how the historian isolates the particular loci of commitment that have been described as accepted rules. Okay. So I don't know about you, but when I read it, I realize that it is the language at least is not easy. See, whether a passage is easy or not is governed by the questions also. But the language does not appear to be easy. Moreover, it appears to be slightly theoretical in nature. Not something that's very topical, but theoretical in nature. So this much I realize on reading the first sentence itself. Okay. And anyway, whenever, even when you decide to attempt an RC passage, you should always read the opening paragraph very carefully. So that's why I read the first sentence very, very carefully. So definitely in the exam, this is not going to be my first RC passage. We are doing it here because we want to tackle something difficult. Okay, from CAT 2007. But in the exam, this should not be your first RC passage if you have other options that are better. Right? Now, what do I do when I encounter such sentences? Okay, so I try to unpackage them and understand them as much as I can. That's my aim. Right? So let's have a look. To discover the relation. So the author is trying to find the relation between three things here. Rules, okay. Paradigms. Now it's important that you should know the meaning of paradigms here, right? So anybody, what is the meaning of paradigm? Yes. Tell me. So paradigms are your accepted principles of a field. Okay, the generally accepted principles of a field. The generally accepted principles of a field. Those of you who are from a commerce background, just trying to relate it with them. So, remember in commerce, in accountancy, we have these generally accepted principles, right? For example, principle of cost, that you should record things in your balance sheet at the cost at which you bought them. So that is what? That's a generally accepted principle in the world of accounting. So those are the paradigms. So to discover the relations between rules, these generally accepted principles of a field, and normal science. Normal science here means, again, when I read it, I feel normal science को यार normal science भी होती है. That's the thing that comes to my mind. But then I realize, oh, this is talking about norms. Normal science means the science that is concerned with norms, or the science that follows the norms, something of that sort. So I am also approximating here as I read. Okay, correct. A pattern can be called a paradigm, right? So a pattern that you follow time and again is a principle, right, Amrit? Ayushi. So absolutely, pattern is also one such meaning, right? Okay. So to discover the relations between rules, paradigms, and normal science, consider consider first how the historian. So when you have to find out this relationship, or you are trying to figure out this relationship, think about the historian. How the historian isolates the particular focus. Here, loci means locus. Here means a focal point in a way. The particular loci of commitment that have been described as accepted rules. So whenever a historian is also stuck with these considerations, what the historian does is he or she sees what is the focus of the commitment. So again, I get an approximate meaning only from here. It's when you read further, no, you realize we are talking about a particular field. So for instance, in any field, what happens is that there are certain accepted rules. For example, let's say all the departmental stores in your area, all the small confectionery shops in your area, they might have this rule that they will not give credit to the customer, right? They'll only make cash sales. So this is a sort of a commitment that they have in that field, right? And this becomes an accepted rule of the confectioners or the departmental stores in your area. That is what we are talking about here, but that becomes clear to you when you read further. So it's possible that when you read the first sentence, things are not very clear to you. But please be patient with such passages. Things will become clear as you proceed. Okay, so let's have a look how I gauge this, that they are talking about this. Close historical investigation of a given specialty, any particular specialized field at a given time discloses a set of recurrent things that happen again and again, a set of recurrent and quasi standard illustrations of various theories in their conceptual, observational, and instrumental applications. Okay, again a heavy sentence. So you simplify, unpackage it for yourself, that we are talking about something that is happening again. Okay, and we are in the process applying some theories. Okay, so we are applying something to our field and then making it a generally accepted principle. Even if you understand this much, that's fine. You need not understand each and every word here. These are the community's paradigms. These are the community's accepted principles. And the community or a particular field, what it will do is it will mention these, reveal these in their textbooks, lectures, and lab exercises. Okay, so in the scientific community also, various scientists, they agree on some generally accepted principles, right? उनके भी कुछ अपने generally accepted principles हैं. Or how are they revealed in their textbooks, their lectures, their laboratory exercises? Okay, and these are how have they formed these? Because they happened again and again. They dealt with such problems again and again in their field, so they made some rules for it. These are not very standard, these are quasi standard rules of sorts, quasi standard principles, I should call them, of sorts. Okay, so by studying them and by practicing with them, the members of the corresponding community learn their trade. So by studying these generally accepted principles, by practicing with them, that's how they learn their trade. So see, something that appears, yes, Trump. So next week itself we have a session on parajumbles. Okay, the week after that is para summary, the week after that is odd sentence out, and in between also I've got some sessions added for it, so don't worry. Now, uh, so something that appeared to be so complex, I thought of examples in my mind, be they from the field of accounting, be they from the field of science. I related them with what words were trying to tell me. ठीक है, थोड़े थोड़े words जो समझ आ रहे थे, उससे मैंने उसको थोड़ा सा relate किया. So things became easier for me. That's what you have to do in a difficult passage. Okay. Right now also, see, it's possible that you don't understand it 100%. That's absolutely fine. You don't need to. The historian, of course, will discover, in addition, a penumbral. See, vocabulary helps. Penumbral is a gray area. We are talking about a gray area here. That the historian, of course, will discover, in addition, a very gray area occupied by achievements whose status is still in doubt. But the core of solved problems and techniques will usually be clear. See, whenever we look into the depth of any field, be it science, be it mathematics, there are always some theories that have not been proven yet, some achievements that are still in doubt, right? But the core of, let's say, mathematics is very clear. The techniques that are usually used in mathematics, that's very clear, right? So I am relating this to the examples from various subjects, accounting, science, maths. हर फील्ड में ऐसा होता है, कुछ थ्योरीज नहीं प्रूवन होती हैं अभी तक, बट जो उनका कोर है उन फील्ड्स का, वो क्लियर यूजुअली होता है. Despite occasional ambiguities, the principles of a mature scientific community can be determined with relative ease. The author is talking in relation to science here particularly, right? That was something that was made clear to us in the beginning itself. So the principles of a mature scientific community can be determined with relative ease. ठीक है, तो ये जो generally accepted principles हैं, okay. So this paragraph, if I ask you, what is this paragraph trying to do? If I ask you the crux of this paragraph, what is it telling us? That when we set out to discover a relationship between rules, rules are strict rules, set rules, generally accepted principles, and the science that follows norms. Normally हम science कैसे practice करते हैं? So we first look for these accepted principles, these paradigms. Now, these paradigms, they emerge out of recurrent practice. So people face some problems recurrently and they evolve a solution for it, a sort of a general principle for it. Okay. And while in the field there may be some things that are still in doubt, these generally accepted principles are usually clear in the field. Right. So this entire paragraph deals with what paradigms are. I hope it is visible to you what I'm writing. What paradigms are. It in a way explains what paradigms are. It talks about that, how the paradigms of any mature scientific community, they can be determined with relative ease. The fact that they can be found with relative ease. बस इतनी कहानी के लिए उसने हमें इतना घुमाया. ठीक है? So the language here is slightly difficult. Okay, let's look at the second paragraph. Now you've discovered the paradigms, and if the scientific community is a mature one, if the field is an established field, you'll be able to discover them with relative ease. So what happens next? That demands, अब आपने paradigms तो discover कर लिए. Now that demands a second step, and one of a somewhat different kind. When undertaking it, the historian must compare the community's paradigms. Basically जो historian है, why are we calling this person a historian? This person is trying to delve into the history of the field, the history of a particular scientific field. Okay. And that, so basically this person is trying to show how the field developed, or what are the rules, what are the principles of the field. That's why we are calling this person a historian. So when undertaking the second step, the historian must compare the community's paradigms with each other and its current research reports. Okay, so let's say the historian isolated 5 paradigms, just an example. So they must be compared with each other. You compare these with each other. Then you see whether the community, whether the fields, current research reports, whatever research it is publishing, its research reports, are they following these paradigms? This is what a historian has to see. तभी तो वो पैराडाइम हुए ना जब वो फॉलो हो रहे हैं. अगर वो फॉलो ही नहीं हो रहे हैं, if they're not at all, if they're not being followed at all, then they're not the paradigms of the community, right? Then that means they're not generally accepted. Yes, it's like the study of science, the study of the study of science. Yes, yes, Amrit. Actually, uh, this is basically delving into how to study a field. You are right. How to study a particular field. Absolutely. So, in doing so, his object, his aim is to discover what isolable elements, explicit or implicit, the members of that community may have abstracted from their more global paradigms and deploy it as rules in their research. Okay, now see this. This is where you need to pause, you need to reflect on this particular sentence. Now we have discovered the generally accepted principles. Now we are comparing them with each other. We are looking at various research reports. Why? Because because from these principles, we are trying to see that from these principles have certain set rules emerged. Okay, from these more globally accepted, more general paradigms, have we isolated some set rules? Have we isolated some set rules? Okay, so uh, again, just giving you that example that in case a particular company records all its all its machinery, etc., at the cost at which it bought them. It writes when it makes the records, the accounting records, it records them at the cost. Now, in that also it can decide, no, how will it later on treat this, right? So, for example, again, for instance, when we talk about cost, what do we mean by this cost? Let's say yes. What do we mean by this cost? What all should this cost include? Should it include the transportation cost? Should it not include the transportation cost? Should it include the installation cost? Should it not include it? So now what are we doing? We are looking at the specific rules from the generally accepted principle of recording a particular machinery at its cost, right? So this is just me giving you examples. Even if you don't relate it to various fields, that's fine. You just have to understand that paradigms are more global, more general, more generally accepted. From these we are now trying to see क्या इन्होंने कुछ rules भी derive किए हैं, some set rules. Okay, anyone who has attempted to describe or analyze the evolution of a particular scientific tradition will necessarily have sought accepted principles and rules of this sort. See, so the moment I reached this juncture in the passage, that is when all of what I had read so far made sense to me. That what is this person trying to do? Trying to see the evolution of a particular field, how a particular field has evolved over time. Okay, and this person in the process is seeking paradigms and seeking the rules of the field. So यहाँ जाके मुझे clear हो गया था what we have been doing so far. Okay, almost certainly he will have met with at least partial success, right? And most of the people who try to find these paradigms and rules, they meet with partial success. But if his experience has been at all like my own, ab aa gaya but, right? So that means this person didn't have a very good experience. He will have found the search for rules both more difficult and less satisfying than the search for paradigms. Paradigms थोड़ा easily मिल जाते हैं, वो general है. Rules are more specific. So the search for rules can be frustrating. Okay. Some of the generalizations that he employs to describe the community's shared beliefs will present more problems. Okay. So he can encounter more problems in the process of this search. Others, however, will seem a shade too strong. So some of the rules that he isolates, they may seem too strong. Some of them, if he tries to, let's say, codify them in a set of rules, some of them will present further problems that need to be addressed. Phrased in just that way or in any other way he can imagine, they would almost certainly have been rejected by some members of the group he studies. So it's quite possible that rules be uniformly applied nahi hote hain. So for instance, one manufacturer might decide that he or she will include the installation cost of the machine in the cost of the machine. But another manufacturer might decide, no, no, we are not going to include the installation cost. So some members of the tradition, some members of the group may have rejected some of these. Nevertheless, oh, here comes the savior. Nevertheless, if the coherence of the research tradition is to be understood, nevertheless, if you still want to understand how a particular field evolved systematically in terms of rules, some specification of common ground in the corresponding area is needed. कुछ rules हमेशा ऐसे होंगे जो सब members follow करते होंगे. कुछ common ground field में होना जरूरी है and होगा, right? That is why it will be called one field. Otherwise, it would have been several different fields. Okay. See, whenever I write something behind my video, please let me know. Okay, things should be visible to you. All right. As a result, the search for a body of rules competent to constitute a given normal research tradition becomes a source of continual and deep frustration. So, just like reading this passage can be frustrating for a lot of us, similarly, searching for rules can be frustrating for a historian who's trying to study a particular field, particularly the evolution of that field. समझ में आ रहा है सबको? Is everybody getting what I'm trying to say? Yes. Any query so far, please ask. See, RCs require your concentration. They take concentration. If you are lazy, if you feel that they should come easy, that does not happen. Okay. Give me some thumbs ups if things are absolutely clear to you, these two passages, these two paragraphs. So, Varun, here, if I tell you what they're doing here, that will sort of answer the main idea question. But okay, see this. Here, we are trying to see what all a historian or a person who is studying the evolution of a particular field, studying the evolution, and here it's a scientific field of a scientific field, how he or she must first discover the paradigms which can be determined with relative ease, then must determine the rules of the field, which can be a frustrating endeavor, right? And now we go to the next paragraph. So we'll get to know more. Okay. So this is the last paragraph. Fortunately, recognizing that frustration, however, makes it possible to diagnose its source. But once you accept that frustration, you then look for where is this frustration coming from? What is the source of this problem that I'm facing? Now, see, a very good example of science is given here, which makes things very clear. Okay, so here scientists can agree that Newton, Lavoisier, Maxwell, or Einstein have produced an apparently permanent solution to a group of outstanding problems and still disagree, sometimes without being aware of it, about the particular abstract characteristics that make those solutions permanent. See this. So, uh, we talked about this, no, that there are some things on which various members of a field are going to disagree. So, for instance, the example given here is that scientists can agree that Newton, Lavoisier, Maxwell, or Einstein, they have produced a permanent solution to a group of outstanding problems. Like Newton discovered gravity, right? So, uh, they have given a permanent solution, but they might still disagree about the mechanics of it. Okay, the particular abstract characteristics that make those solutions permanent. Right. For instance, some people say this. I may be wrong here. That when Newton discovered the formulae regarding gravitation, he overestimated, he exaggerated one or two things there. Right. I read it in my class 9 physics book, and I remember this. I may be wrong here. Okay, it's been a lot of time. So students can agree that they gave a permanent solution, but the exact mechanics of those solutions, they might still disagree on that, right? Scientists can, so broad चीजों पे agreement है scientists का, isn't it? broad चीजों पे scientists are going to agree. Okay, scientists. Okay, so they can, that is, agree on their identification of a paradigm. Again, see वो अब same चीज reiterate कर रहा है जो हमने last two paragraphs में पढ़ी है, that they agree on the paradigm because that's broader. Without agreeing or even attempting to produce a full interpretation or rationalization of it. Without attempting a full rationalization of it. So, for instance, paradigm hai that you have to record a particular machinery bought at a cost. But what exactly does cost mean and what exactly does it include? They might not produce a full interpretation or rationalization of it. This lack of a standard interpretation or of an agreed reduction to rules will not prevent a paradigm from guiding research. However, this is not something that stops a particular scientific field. It does not hinder a particular scientific field. It's still, the broad paradigm will still keep on guiding more and more research in the field, right? So, normal science can be determined in part by the direct inspection of paradigms. So, एक normally एक scientific field में क्या क्या practices हैं, right? The theory of that field that can be determined in part by the direct inspection of paradigms. A process that is often aided by but does not depend upon the formulation of rules and assumptions. So वो कह रहा है आपको पैराडाइम समझ में आ गए तो आपको रिसर्च भी समझ में, द फील्ड ऑल्सो विल बी क्लियर टू यू, आपको फील्ड भी समझ में आ जाएगा. Okay, you need not, of course you will be helped if you know the rules also, the exact rules also, but if you do not know them, then the understanding of that field, okay, how that field progresses or how that field came into existence, ऐसा नहीं है, वो उसकी rules पर dependent है, वो paradigm से भी आपको समझ में आ जाए. Indeed, the existence of a paradigm need not even imply that any full set of rules exists. So, just because there is a paradigm, that does not imply that any full set of rules regarding it exists. Okay, so I hope things are clear to you. Yes? So this was a difficult RC passage in terms of language. Let's see the questions. See, it's quite possible that an RC passage in terms of language is difficult, but the questions are easy, right? So let's have a look. Any query you can ask me. Any query in any of the paragraphs. So this is from CAT 2007 and we had 5 options in CAT 2007. So question 1 says, what is the author attempting to illustrate through this passage? कहना क्या चाह रहा है, right? That's what this question is asking us. So tell me which options should I eliminate? Which option can be the answer? First, I want to know from you. Then we'll discuss this. Sort of a main idea question only. C. Okay, Varun has said C. Others, what do you say? Again, I've got one more C. What else? Okay, a lot of C's I've got. But don't you think C is incomplete? It just talks about paradigms only. The discussion was not confined just to paradigms. So this appears to be very incomplete to me. Karthik says A. All right. Amrit, what do you say? Apurva says A. Anand, what do you say? All right. So I was expecting more responses. Uh, Basically, you're confused between C and A. C is incomplete, so this can be eliminated. E is false as per the passage. The frustration occurred when you were trying to identify rules and not paradigms. So E can be eliminated easily. B says how a historian would isolate a particular loci of commitment. See, this loci of commitment was talked about in reference to paradigms only in the first paragraph. So the historian is not just trying to discover paradigms. That is not what the passage is about. So even B can be eliminated. Between A and D, this is what the students were confused in the exam also, right? So between A and D, is it about the relationships that exist between rules, paradigms, and normal science? Is it focused on the relationships? Or is it focused on a particular historian who's trying to understand these relationships? And why is he or she trying to understand these relationships? Because he wants to study the evolution of a particular field. Right. So between A and C, which one do you think, A and D, which one is more appropriate? It is D that is the more appropriate one, even though A is a very tempting answer to mark. It's a very tempting answer to mark because this is the first sentence that we read in the first paragraph. But why? The question is, why are we studying this relationship between rules, paradigms, normal science? Kya zarurat pad gayi? Right? We are studying this because we want to understand the evolution of a particular scientific field. Didn't I tell you that things became very clear to me when I reached that sentence? This sentence here, anyone who has attempted to describe or analyze the evolution of a particular scientific tradition will necessarily have sought these paradigms and rules. So the passage is trying to show you what are the steps that are involved in trying to understand a particular scientific field, a particular scientific tradition, right? So that is why this is our answer here, option D. Hope this is clear to you. This was not an easy question. I would not call it an easy question. Okay, and if if I was really confused about this in the exam, I would have left this question. Okay, I would have left this. So not an easy one, but then the others are relatively easier. So let's have a look. The term loci of commitment, as used in the passage, would most likely correspond with which of the following? We've just discussed this in the previous question. The loci of commitment, what will it correspond with? So let's have a look where it has been used and going to the first paragraph. Read the part that talks about loci of commitment and then let's go back to the question. Loci of commitment mentioned right in the beginning. Read? Okay, now let's go back to the question 2. Yes, what do you say? Loyalty between a group of scientists in a research lab, loyalty between a group of scientists across research labs, loyalty to a certain paradigm, loyalty to global patterns of scientific inquiry, loyalty to evolving trends of scientific inquiry. So what are they committed to? Commitment के लिए loyalty word use किया. So today's session is going to be slightly longer because I wanted to do at least 2 passages with you. C maybe, all right. So in this question, you can eliminate, I think, the loyalty between scientists. Yes, these 2 options. It's not about loyalty between the members as such. They are loyal to certain paradigms. They are loyal to what? Basically, they are showing their commitment to these paradigms. That is why they become generally accepted, na? Isn't it? So A, B, and E can be eliminated. Usually there are two close options in every question. So here C and D are the two close options. Right? Parth says D. So it's not a certain paradigm, okay, loyalty to a certain paradigm of scientific inquiry or to global patterns. Yes. Why not D? That's my question. Yes. Why not D? Hmm. Why not D? Because global patterns ही होते हैं ना. These paradigms that we have, they are global patterns, aren't they? So why do you say that these are to a certain paradigm but not to the global patterns of scientific inquiry? So it is about a certain paradigm only. You are right. Okay, because this is closer to my RC passage, right? I was just trying to confuse you a bit here. Loyalty to a certain paradigm of scientific inquiry. That is what I mean by loci of commitment. That is what has been talked about in the first paragraph. So, global patterns of scientific inquiry, this is more general to be, I mean, it's broader when I actually compare it with my uh, RC passage. So that's why loyalty to a certain paradigm of scientific inquiry is the better answer here. Right? Hope this makes sense. They are loyal to the paradigms. Option A is matching and B is conceptual. Option C you mean, I think, Anand. Option C. So C is the answer here. C is the answer. Good, good, good. Okay. Global patterns general term हो गया, ठीक है? Because when I used the word global there, I meant generally accepted. Again, it's not necessary that everywhere across the globe these paradigms will work, right? Uska meaning everywhere across the globe nahi tha, general. I hope this is clear to you. When you read this passage twice or thrice, it becomes clearer to you. Okay, that's the nature of this passage. ठीक है. The author of this passage is likely to agree with which of the following? So, likely to agree with which of the following? Let's have a look. This is a further application question. No, wait, this is not further application. This is talking about things from the passage only. This is an inference question. My bad. Further application is in the next RC passage. Okay. Tell me. Sine qua non means absolutely essential. Okay. Need more responses. C maybe. All right. E. All right. What else? E. Okay. All right. Others? I need more responses. Let's wrap up this RC then. Once I get a sufficient number of responses. Okay. Very good. E is the answer here. ये वाला easy था? Yes. I found this to be pretty easy. I found question 2 also to be easy because of the fact that paradigm was something that was there in the first paragraph itself. This was also there in the first paragraph itself. And yes, we were talking about committing ourselves to some generally accepted principles. So ये भी मुझे easy लगा relatively. Question 1 I found to be tricky. Okay, and in the exam, if I was really confused between A and this one, D, I would have probably left that question, right? So 3 here, the answer is E. The others do not match at all. almost entirely, you should always be suspicious of such extreme options. Paradigms almost entirely define a scientific tradition. This is not something that my passage has gone to the extent of saying. See, the last paragraph talks about this. Okay, so does the last paragraph say this? Just a second. Let's have a look. Does my last paragraph say this? Trying to delete. So my last paragraph says this here. Lack of a standard interpretation will not prevent a paradigm from guiding research. So paradigm can guide research. This is what has been told to us. But does it almost entirely define a scientific tradition? That is not given to me. So ये A हो गया बहुत extreme. I'm sure nobody thought of A, right? Then a group of scientists investing a phenomenon would benefit by defining a set of rules. This may be the case or may not be the case. They may benefit, right? They may benefit. This is what is given to us in the last paragraph. But would benefit becomes again very definitive. कि उनको benefit होगा ही होगा. Acceptance by the giants of a tradition? No. This is not given to us anywhere. This is an alien option, so to say, external option. Okay. D again has not been discussed. Choice of isolation mechanism determines the types of paradigm that emerge from a tradition. हमने तो choice of isolation mechanism की बात ही नहीं करी anywhere in the RC element. So E is the answer here. That yes, they are a general representation of rules and beliefs of a scientific tradition. That is sort of what is being discussed in the first paragraph, partially in the second paragraph also. So hope this is clear to you and good. Those who said E. All right. So this was a relatively challenging one, and I wanted to discuss this because in CAT 2019 or it was it 2020? In CAT 2019 or 2020, in one of the papers, there was this passage about visual culture. Just explore this. It was, I think, in slot one itself, visual culture. That was also pretty academic and theoretical. So that means this is not something, this is not a phenomenon that is confined to CAT 2007 only, that they asked something so academic and theoretical. If it came in CAT 2019 2020, that means this can happen even in 2022. So we should know how to navigate such passages. जितना समझ आ रहा है उतना समझ लो, जो जो easy questions लग रहे हैं attempt करो and then proceed. That should be your approach. 100% understanding you should not aim at, and keep unpackaging things for yourself as you proceed. That's okay. So coming to passage 2 here. Now, this is very logical, okay, and it's pretty interesting also. I want you to read this yourself. And again, not a very lengthy passage as such. See, I've categorized it para by para here. So, how many paras are there? 4 paragraphs, but it's very interesting. So, let's see this. Okay. I'm reading along with you. So, let's time ourselves in the sense that we don't spend a lot of time on a particular slide. Okay. Let me know once you finish. Yes, Prajwal. Done. The first slide. Should have completed the first slide by now. Enfeeble is to make someone weak, weaken. Okay, perfect. Done this one. So in a way, this para says Shakespeare was right after all. Yes, not mentioned. I'm just saying it on my own. Done. Good, good, good. Okay. Third para. Don't be lazy when it comes to reading RCs. Done. Good, good, good. Good. So, completed everyone. The last slide as well. Good, good, good. So, interesting RC, right? Talks about roles in our society. I won't say further because there is a main idea question. So, let's see what you say. What is the thematic highlight of this passage? So, the reason why I asked you to read the opening paragraph and even the closing paragraph relatively carefully is that while they may not always contain the thematic highlight, sometimes they can provide us very crucial insights about the thematic highlight. Okay, so always read these at least carefully. In fact, opening paragraph all the more because you are just trying to understand the RC passage, just trying to dive into it. So it's important that you are careful here, you concentrate more here, right? Okay, so let's see five options again. Uh, in the absence of strong biological linkages, reciprocal roles provide the mechanisms for coordinating human behavior. Read the other options and tell me what the answer should be. Varun says C or D. What do the others say? E. Okay. All right. Others? See this. So I understand that we cannot go back and reread the entire passage. But what I thought when I read these options was that a lot of this was actually discussed in the opening paragraph. So I can do that. I can at least go back to the opening paragraph. So what does it say? See, I think this one sentence clarifies it. Social role is independent of the biological base. Although we are talking about this in a particular sense, okay, in the sense of an example, that the social role is independent of the biological base can be demonstrated by going back three sentences. Okay, so that means we are trying to say that our social roles in society, they are independent of the biological linkage. Okay, so let's see. Uh, A is incorrect because it says in the absence of biological linkages, reciprocal roles provide the mechanism. No, in the presence of biological linkage also, even if a particular woman has given birth to a child, she is still expected to act like a mother also to that child, right? B, it says that when there are no reciprocal roles, but that is not what my passage is saying. My passage is saying that reciprocal roles are always there. Okay, so B is eliminated. Human behavior is independent of reciprocal roles. Not at all. Human behavior depends on reciprocal roles. That part is correct. But does it depend on biological linkages? No. My passage, in fact, is trying to prove that human behavior is dependent on reciprocal roles only. The biological linkages do not matter, right? So, with adoption and fostering, it is not even necessary to give birth to a child. So the biological linkages do not matter. Yes. So even D is eliminated and we've got our answer. Our answer here is E. Reciprocal roles determine how what is the norm of human behavior in a society. Reciprocal roles determine that. Good one. E is the answer. Vidhi, absolutely correct. E is the answer. So this was a good question in my opinion. And if you understood the passage, then it was not difficult. Again, in my opinion, right? You might differ, but मुझे difficult नहीं लगा. Okay. Which of the following would have been true? Okay. Now this is a further application question. Yes, it involves some further application. थोड़ा सा involved है इसमें, right? Uh, though it's not entirely a further application question because a lot of situations given in the options are there in the passage. Only this warlord wala example, that is not there in the passage. Otherwise, the others are there in the passage, right? Uh, which of the following would have been true if biological linkages structured human society? Understanding the question stem is very important. वो ये बोल रहा है ऑथर एग्जामिनर, अगर बायोलॉजिकल लिंकेजेस ह्यूमन सोसाइटी स्ट्रक्चर करते, अभी नहीं करते हैं बायोलॉजिकल लिंकेजेस, पर अगर वो करते तो फिर इनमें से क्या ट्रू होता? दैट इज द क्वेश्चन. टेल मी. So currently biological linkages do not structure human society, but if they did, then which would have been true in that case? What do you say? All right. Okay. Okay. Excellent. All of you are correct. All of you are correct. B, Bangalore is the answer. Right? That if just giving your sperm were enough to become a father, then you could be any kind of a father. You could be a sarcastic father. Right? A tongue-in-cheek father is a sarcastic father, right? You could be a father who makes fun of their kids and no one would have been offended. Okay, good. B is the answer here. A is incorrect because in that case, reciprocal relationship would not have governed the relationship of a mother with her child. Just the biological linkage would have been enough, right? In that case, women would not have adopted and fostered children. They would have rather given birth. So even this is false. Even if warlords were physically weaker than their followers, they would still dominate them. First of all, this does not show any biological linkage between the warlord and the followers. Biological linkage तो नहीं दिख रहा है इसमें between the warlords and the followers, so it's a very irrelevant example. Okay. E. Waiters would have stronger motivation to serve their customers. Why? Why? Would the waiters be genetically related to the customers? No, we don't know, right? So it's only B that is relevant. Good. So all of you found this easy. That means, okay. I think this is the last question. Yes, this is the last question from this passage. It has been claimed in the passage that some roles are more absorbing than others. This has been there. This has been mentioned in the last panel. Some roles are more absorbing than others. According to the passage, which of the following seems the appropriate reason for such a claim? Okay, why is such a claim being made that some roles are more absorbing than others? Yes, these are the three reasons. Okay, so which of them is in a way true according to the passage? That's what you have to find out. In case you wish to go back, read the options and then we can go back. Here. Okay, so we have, let's go back to the options. Sorry. D, B, A. Acha, option, which one is not visible? D. Acha, option D is A and B. Option E is B and C. Okay, 5 options. So far I've got B and D. Parth says A. Vidip says D. Pradeep says D. All right. So I've got 4 Ds so far. 1 confused B or D. 1 B and 1 A. Okay. Lakshmi also says B. So, society ascribes so much importance to some roles that the conception of self may get aligned with the roles being performed. Yes. So there is a difference between roles that we play and some roles that underlie our self, right? That underlie our very self. So that sentence actually justifies B. So at that very instance, these options, acha nahi, okay, it could be B and C also, but C is not the answer. Some roles require development of skill and expertise. That has not been stated. So it's either B only or it is A and B both. A says some roles carry great expectations from the society, preventing the manifestation of the true self. Even this is something that is clear from a reading of the last paragraph. Okay, that uh, there are some, first of all, prevent the manifestation of true self, that is justified here, right? Now, look at this. We would be surprised and offended by the father who played his part tongue in cheek. Part tongue in cheek. So that means we have some expectations from the father. The father may actually be a very happy-go-lucky, tongue-in-cheek guy, sarcastic guy in general, but he cannot be such a father, isn't it? Okay, so we would be surprised by it, we would be offended by it. That means we have certain expectations from that role, and this expectation, it may actually prevent the manifestation of our true self. Why? Because the role then starts underlying our very self. The role then starts becoming our very self, right? So even this can be inferred, and that is why A and B both. Okay, A and B both can be inferred from this. D, Delhi is the answer. Good. So quite a few of you said D. Happy to see that. That means we found this question also to be relatively easy. So second and third question were easy for us, even though second question did involve our application of the principles, some of the principles that we learned in the passage. And three was an inference question. That means we need to work on the main idea question. Yes, the main idea question has to be done through elimination. That's one thing that you need to know. Second is, while you cannot go back and reread the entire passage, however, sometimes the opening paragraph contains a lot of important information and you may benefit from having a cursory glance at that opening paragraph. In this passage, for instance, it benefited us. Okay. And third is that you have to look at the entire passage. So, for instance, in the previous passage, we were stuck to looking at, let's say, para 1 only, the relation between rules, paradigms, and normal science. But the paragraphs had a clear distinction, the first step. Okay, that's what the first paragraph said. The second paragraph said the second step. That means it's a procedure that is being followed to achieve something, right? So that, having that understanding that we have to look at all the paras, that could have helped us, etc. Okay, so I hope the passages gave you some insight into how to attempt, first of all, tricky passages, then how to attempt main idea questions, right? It's very important that we read for key ideas, and even if we are not able to grasp everything, that's okay. Okay, we have to operate on as much as we are able to understand. And this is something that will work for you in every passage out there. Pay special attention to the opening paragraphs and the opening sentences of all the paragraphs, right? The second step, that was the opening sentence of the second paragraph in our previous passage. Learn how to approach various question types. So we just saw 3 question types today, and always, always eliminate. That will help. Okay. Uh, okay, okay. Karthik has a question here, that doesn't option A appear very extreme? Some rules carry great expectations. It would be extreme if there were no evidence for it in the passage, right? If there were no evidence for it in the passage. See, when we say this, no, when we talk about the father, it's not just the father, the example that has been given to us. See, when I say they are more far reaching than others, they're more far reaching, that they have broader implications. So, for instance, when we call someone a clergyman, or a faith healer, automatically a certain set of expectations come attached with it. It's a very far reaching role with far reaching impact. So that is why some rules carry great expectations by their very nature. This is justified by this paragraph. So it would be extreme if, let's say, there was no justification for it given in the passage. But this last paragraph seems to be devoted to this only, right? So option A, therefore, can be, pointing. All right, then. This is it from my side for today. We'll meet again on Tuesday now, right? And do join us for the NMAT analysis. This will happen on 12th of October at 5 p.m. Okay. And this is our comprehensive CAT 2023 program. You get a lot of things, a lot of material, a lot of expert guidance. So you can enroll now. And we are also offering our test series, right, which is 70 plus marks, 20 CAT, 50 non-CAT, and this is all it will contain. So again, you can buy this test series. And yes, this is what we were doing today, that IIM Bangalore PYQP series. Next week, we'll discuss parajumbles. We're now left with parajumbles, parasummary, odd sentence or parajumbles, these topics. Okay. Also, you know this already. I need not repeat it. Do attempt it. Just last 2 days left. And yes, you can follow us on various social media platforms and we can stay connected via Telegram. Okay. Welcome, welcome all of you. Thank you, Amrit. See you next time. Bye bye.